I found a box in my mother's closet and learned why my dad never looked me the eyes throwaway. Because my sister's friends know my name. Into 8F. My mum died in March. She kept an old shoebox in the top of her closet the way other moms keep jewelry, tucked high, hidden behind sweaters, careful, private. I only found it because my dad told me to start packing the hard stuff. Before the memorial, her scarves, her perfume, the stuff that still smelled like her neck. I pulled the box down by the crusted tape. It weighed almost nothing. Like there was more silence than items inside. Inside, a blue leather diary, a mini tape in a cracked plastic case, and a photograph of my mum at 20-something with a man I didn't recognize. They were standing in front of a brick hospital with a banner that said "Welcome, New Life." On the back of the photo, in her neat library handwriting, "We borrowed time." I sat cross-legged on the floor with the box and the heating vent sighing under my knees. In the ugly quiet that follows a funeral, you tell yourself little lies like you'll read it later or there's no rush. I told myself both. Then I opened the diary. The first entry is dated June 14, 1997. I am working nights again. The nursery smells like milk and lavender soap, and I swear the babies know when the shift changes. I can pick up one and feel the weight of another. Sometimes I close my eyes and pretend the beeping is a heartbeat that belongs to me. My mother was a maternity nurse. I knew that. I grew up with her stories of swaddling techniques and first-time fathers learning to fasten car seats in July heat while sweat made their necks shine. But I didn't know about the other things you can intend to do with a job like that. I read the next entry and the next. The handwriting loosens just once. On a page where the ink is dragged like she was crying onto the diary. We named him first. I wanted him to have a name for as long as he existed. They said you can't put a name on the certificate of stillbirth if there was no heartbeat outside me. I named him anyway, in pencil on a receipt. I put the receipt in my bra and held it against my ribs during rounds. I stopped after she wrote that because grief made a sound in the room. A soft elastic snap like a rubber band slipping. I didn't know about a stillbirth. We did not do that in our family. We did not tell the worst thing first. The tape was labeled in my mum's voice home, 2003 Christmas. I found an old camcorder in the basement. Wiped dust, prayed the battery would charge. It did. I slid the tape in and fast-forwarded through a parade of familiar December moments. Me, 6 in pajamas with snowmen. My older sister, Abby, 8, being bossy about ornament distribution. My dad fiddling with the tripod because he always wanted the shot centered. My mum says, "Let's do presents," in a voice that already knew it would be replayed. Nothing weird. Normal. Normal in the way that makes you suspicious. I was ready to eject when something flickered. My mom alone in the kitchen at night, to 11 a.m. On the camcorder clock. The background hum of the refrigerator. She puts the camera on a flour canister, checks the frame, sits down. The light is the kind that makes women look honest overhead. No makeup, tired eyes. She doesn't smile. "Rachel, if you're watching this, I either told you or I never found the courage." She swallows. "I don't want you to hate me from the start of the truth, so watch until the end." She breathes like she's timing contractions. "I had a stillbirth before Abby," she says. "And I thought the worst thing that could happen to a person had happened. And then I learned that grief is not a worst thing, it's a room. You live in it, and you put down a rug, and you learn where the chair legs go so you don't trip at night. Hating that room never gets you out of it." She looks briefly off camera, at the sink, at a place where the faucet drips. "When you were born, Rachel, something happened at the hospital. I am not proud. I am not even sure I am forgivable. But I chose you. I chose you so hard that I broke something." She reaches up and rubs her chest. One of those mindless gestures you do when your body remembers a pain the calendar forgot. I don't know another way to say this. The night before you, another baby came in. No visitors. Teen mum. She overdosed in triage. She was 17. She told me her first name and asked me to rub her hair and told me she didn't want to see the baby. She signed forms. She said she didn't want the baby to go to those homes. She said, "Can you make sure someone good gets her?" And then she went to sleep. And then she didn't wake up. I paused the tape. The house made a new sound, the timbers complaining the way they do when the temperature changes. I pressed play. The attending on that night was Dr. Leland. My mum's eyes go to the right like she can still see him standing there. He was the kind of man who liked rules the way some men like cigars, as proof that they're in charge. He said we should call social services. We did. They said someone would come in the morning. She laughs once, completely without humor. Morning is very far away at 2:30 a.m. She looks straight into the camera. It felt like she finally aimed her whole life at me. I had already lost one. And the next day I was going to tell your father that my body had failed us again. Because the second time, Rachel, it did. There was no heartbeat at my 12-week check. I miscarried at home. I told no one. Not even him. I was going to tell him after the shift. But then you happened. Same night. Same hallway. A baby that breathed like she intended to be here. Dr. Leland let me hold you because we hold them all for a minute. Skin to skin, human to human. Everything in me said yes. Parts of me said no. The parts that lost and learned to get polite about it. She puts both hands over her face. She shakes once, a small quake. Then she drops her hands and says, the sentence that rewrote my life. I swapped the bands. There is a sickeningly small sound on the tape when she says it. Like a glass marble tapping a tabletop. She explains anyway, the ankle bands that match mother to child. The pink and blue that makes a person official. She took mine off and put me into paperwork that said I belonged to her. She took the other off and put it into a file nobody checked fast enough. The kind of crime you can only do if you're close enough to love a doctor. Leland signed the discharge, she says. I can't prove that he knew exactly what I did, but he knew not to ask what it would have cost him to notice. He retired 6 months later. Your father he found out a year after, when he saw the dates didn't align. She looks down so sharply it's like the camera falls with her. He stayed. He decided to be your father on purpose. That's why he didn't look you in the eye sometimes. He was afraid what you'd see. If you stared too long. The tape clicks. She leans forward and turns it off. Not dramatic, just done. I sat there until the camcorder battery blinked red. My mind felt like a room where someone had just opened a window. In winter everything sharp. Everything a little cruel. I called my dad. He picked up on the 4th ring, like he always does, as if the 3rd ring is his boundary. Hey Bug, he said. Using a nickname from when I was small enough not to care whether it was for a grandchild or an insect. In the background, I heard the TV doing what it does best, pretending to be company. Did you know? My voice came out flat, like a note played on a keyboard with the power off. Know what? It wasn't a question. It was more like he was placing a raincoat over the conversation. About me, I said. About the bands. About how Mom brought me home. He didn't answer right away. I could hear the little household file sounds. A drawer, the fridge door, a glass on a counter. Finally, yes. How long? Since you were about 1, he said. I realized your mother had. He stopped, searching for a word that didn't exist. I realized, and I made a choice. What choice? To be your father anyway. I don't know why that made me angrier than the tape. Maybe because it meant the secret was a room where both my parents lived together with the door locked, smiling at me through the peephole. Maybe because it meant my face had been a compromise in my father's peripheral vision. You should come over, he said. I kept something for you. It was your job to keep the truth from me, not from me, I said, and hung up. I didn't sleep. The morning pastry my aunt left on the counter tasted like dust. And the radio said cheerful things in that bright radio voice like someone's life wasn't on fire. I googled Dr. Leland. 2 articles. One retirement notice with a photo of a man with a tie too wide for his neck. One feature called The Quiet Saints of County General that described him as unflappable. I stopped reading when the phrase devoted to the sanctity of procedure made my eardrums grind. Then I did the thing any child does when the floor disappears. I called my sister. Abby has 2 children and a minivan and a way of speaking to me. Like she's adjusting the thermostat on my feelings. Okay, she said, after she heard the whole thing and I ran out of words. I'm coming. She arrived with a grocery bag of Solutions cut fruit, deli turkey, a loaf of bread, a cold bottle of white wine she would later drink half of and call yuck. She hugged me like she could push air back into me. Then she sat cross-legged and watched the tape. At the end, she said, I'm not surprised. What? I said, because an entire life can be compressed into one what? She was mum. Abby twisted her hair into a rope and let it bounce. She made casseroles for funerals of people she barely knew. She kept extra toothbrushes under the sink in case of sudden guests. We always thought it was generosity. Maybe it was also obsession. About keeping. About not losing again. She looked at me. You were always the favorite, Ratch. We joked, but I think I knew it was more. Like she kept you close, so the sky couldn't. I wanted to ask if it changed anything between us. I wanted to ask if she would now love me with parentheses around it. Instead, I asked to borrow her car. What for? She said. I showed her the back of the photo. We borrowed time. The hospital named St. Mary's County General was printed on the banner in the picture with that 90s sweatshop graphic design. I said, if Mum left a tape, she left this photo on purpose. I think she wanted me to look. Look for what? Abby said. But she was already handing me her keys. Street Mary's is 30 miles out on the highway that grows corn in 3 seasons and dust in 1. The building is smaller than in the photo. Or maybe everything is smaller when you need it to swallow what hurts. The woman at the records desk had white hair and a purple sweater with pumpkins on it, which was the maximum number of gentle things I could handle. I don't need to see any birth certificates, I said, because I'd practiced that sentence in the car. I just want to see if there were any unusual notes around June 1997. She made a face like unusual is a word that causes liability. Your family? My mother worked here. Susan Lake. The lie was shaped like a truth. My mother worked at County General. Though they renamed it Mercy in 2008 because hospitals rebrand like coffee shops sometimes. Purple Sweater studied me like she was a librarian deciding whether I deserved the special collection. Hold on, she said, and disappeared into an office that smelled like paper cuttings and old toner. 20 minutes later, a different woman came out, younger, with a badge that said Compliance Officer, which I do not recommend as a job to anyone with a heartbeat. What exactly are you looking for? She asked, in a voice that could have been used to instruct people to exit a plane. An incident, I said. An informal one. I was thinking of my mother's hands, quick and kind, doing a formal thing informally. I can't show you patient records, she said. Even redacted. I'm not asking for names, I said. Just if there was a baby whose mother died that night. The compliance officer looked at my face like it might give her a reason to make an exception. Whatever she saw convinced her I was not there to make the hospital look bad on the internet. She exhaled. There was a notation in a staff log, she said finally. None identifying. A maternal death. Baby survived. Social services notified. That's all I can say. Thank you, I said, and meant it so hard that the thanks vibrated in my teeth. Are you okay? She asked. Like someone asking if you need a napkin when you've obviously cut yourself. I don't know, I said. But I think you just told me what I needed to know. I sat in my sister's car and realized I had to make a choice. Live in the room where the secret was the furniture, or open a door. I went home to my dad's house. He was sitting at the kitchen table with his hands folded, the way he used to sit at parent-teacher conferences, preparing his face to be told I talked too much. In front of him, a manila envelope, fat with paper. "This is the thing I kept," he said. "Not to hide from you forever. Your mother asked me to wait until she was gone. She didn't want to see your face when the world tilted." Inside were printed emails, letters with physical stamps, return addresses, all to my mother, all from the same woman, Maya Hernandez. The letters started in 2001 and went tapering into 2010, then stopped. My dad had highlighted parts to make me less likely to explode. 2001. I'm not mad. I'm not asking for anything. I just want to know she is okay. Please, if you are the right Susan, write back, or if you're not, please disregard. I know this sounds insane. I saw that you work at the hospital I was at. I got your name from a friend who knew a nurse named Susan, who was kind. 2004. I don't want to take anything from you. I had a baby in June 1997, and I signed papers. I regretted some of it later. I just need to know if she has a good life. I don't even know if it was a girl. 2006. My sister keeps telling me to let it go. But I think my mother died because she couldn't. I can't either. 2010. I moved. Last letter. If you ever want to talk, I will answer. The not knowing is a hole that doesn't behave like other holes. It grows. Some had phone numbers. Some had an address in a different county. My mother wrote back once, a draft printed, never sent. She is good. She is so good she hurts my eyes to look at her. I am sorry. I am not brave enough to ruin her image of me while I'm still here. I squeezed the paper. I imagined this woman, Maya, writing letters in a kitchen that smelled like fried onions and laundry, promising a version of forgiveness to a stranger. You never wrote back to her. I asked my dad. His face smoothed into grief. That complicated expression you make when you've already cried about something too many times to access the original tears. Your mother asked me not to, he said. She was afraid. And I was a coward in a different direction. I was afraid of losing you, of being the person you hated because I opened the envelope. Then let me hate the right person for the right reason, I said. But it came out less clever and more like I was 3. He slid a smaller envelope across the table. There's one more thing. Inside was a photograph of me at 3 months, asleep on my father's chest. My father pretending to sleep because that was the game. On the back, Rachel, this name belongs to you no matter who picked it. And below it, in my father's handwriting, I pick it every day. I took the stack of letters and went home and stared at them until it stopped feeling like theft. To read words addressed to a dead woman, I wrote to the latest address. I kept it simple. My name is Rachel Lake. I think you wrote to my mother about me. If you are the Maya who wrote those letters, I would like to talk. I mailed it at the same blue box outside the post office, where my mother used to send Christmas cards. Because grief makes you make small ceremonies out of errands. 2 weeks later, an email. Subject line, Rachel. I am the Maya who wrote those letters. I am shaking. I am happy and sick. I never expected to hear. My sister is here. She is making me tea like that will calm the ocean. Whenever you are ready, we can meet. We picked a diner off the highway because nobody is brave in a house. Abby came with me because she said if I intended to do a thing that tilts the earth, she intended to be there to hold onto something bolted down. Maya is 46 now. She met us wearing a dress like a weekday and a necklace that had been repaired. She looked at my face like she was checking for a word on a page she had memorized years ago. I don't want to be your mother unless you want me to be, she said before the waitress could put water down. I just want to be a person you know. Her sister, Teresa, had the kind of laugh that belongs in a kitchen. She sat beside Maya and held her hand under the table, the way people do when they have been each other's lifeboats in different storms. We talked like neighbors at first: jobs, weather, the fact that the pancakes are better than the waffles. Then Maya took a breath that felt like an aisle in a church. I was 17, she said. The father was older. I thought I loved him because his car was nice and he smelled like the mall. My mother told me to keep the baby, and then she died in April, and I fell apart in May. In June, I went to the hospital and said I didn't want to see her, because I didn't know how to love something when everything hurt. She stared at her water. I have been trying to learn how ever since. I told her what my mother did. I said the words in a flat and quiet way because if I gave them drama, I would fill the diner with it. Maya closed her eyes. Teresa swore softly. Not at me, not even at my mother, but at what love does to a person when it gets cornered. I'm not mad at her, Maya said finally. I'm mad at the world that gave her that night. I'm mad at the man who should have asked a question. I'm mad at myself, but that's old. I've been mad at myself long enough to make it boring. I don't know what to do, I said. Which is a sentence that feels like failure until you say it and realize it is a form of prayer. Eat your eggs, Teresa said, very practically, and then we'll decide what to do next. What we did next was we did not blow up anybody's life with a press conference. We did not march into Mercy with a banner. We did not go to the police because the statute of limitations on grief is a joke, and the statute on paperwork crimes is not. We did something gentler and harder. We wrote down what happened, each of us, in our own words, and we put it in a lawyer's office with instructions to open it if anyone ever asked. Then we started to know each other. This is the part of a story where the internet sometimes wants a tidy bow. There isn't one. There is a ribbon drawer. My father cried when I told him about the diner. He said he had spent 27 years waiting for me to leave in a way. That meant I was leaving him, and that now that it was happening, it was not what he feared. There's room for more love, he said, blowing his nose with homicidal vigor into a paper towel. Who knew? Abby said she felt protective of me in a new way, like there was a second version of me, a ghost sister who could have been raised in a different kitchen, and she wanted to make sure that girl, too, had enough to eat. Abby sent the kids' school photos to Maya because she said, if this is going to be weird anyway, it might as well be generous. Maya sent me a picture of herself at 17. She looks tired and a little mean in the way girls look when meanness is the only armor they are issued. I put the photo on my fridge, not because it fixes anything, because it tells the truth out loud. I went to the cemetery where my mother is, and I told her everything. I told her I was angry at her. I told her I missed her so much that sometimes I smell the shampoo she used and have to sit down. I told her that I thought what she did was love and theft at the same time, and that the mouth of it doesn't come out even. I told her that I was going to be okay, which felt like a promise and a question. I went to the cemetery where Teresa and Maya's mother is, because it felt fair. I brought daisies. I said her name. I said I was sorry for the shape of the story, as if the story were a sweater I'd borrowed and stretched out. Teresa cried and told me her mother would have loved me, which is the kind of sentence that could raise the dead if we believed hard enough. Dr. Leland died in 2012, which I learned because the internet is good at obituaries. I do not know whether to be relieved or cheated. I do not know what I would have said to him. Maybe nothing. Maybe just looked at his hands. I am writing this now because things are quieter and the silence no longer hurts my teeth. Also because when your life does a thing like this, your brain wants witnesses. Here is what is true. I am my mother's daughter. The way I slice apples. The way my hairline does a little comma at my temple. The way I keep extra toothbrushes under the sink. I am Maya's daughter. The way my laugh catches at the end like a hiccup. The way my first impulse is to leave a party without saying goodbye. The way my hands go cold when someone says wait. I am my father's daughter, whether or not biology cares. The way I measure twice and cut once. The way I make a dad joke even when it is not socially optimal. The way I forgive like I will have to keep doing it. Last week, my dad came over for dinner. He brought the old camcorder because he said he was ready to retire some ghosts. Which is such a dad sentence that I almost forgave him for taking his shoes off in the living room, where the toddler could grab the laces and weaponize them. We watched a tape, Easter 2001. There I am in a dress with a duck on it, asking why ducks are always thinking. There he is, younger than I am now, making a face like he cannot believe he gets to exist in a room with this person who asks questions. Like they are coins she will spend on a mystery. At one point on the tape, my mum turns the camera toward herself and says, "I hope we're doing this right." I paused the tape. "We're doing it now," I said, to the air, to the dark corners of the living room where memory stacks itself like boxes you plan to sort, to the two women whose names are on my story. We're doing it as right as we can. Maya came by on Sunday with a cake shed bought. Because she is not yet ready to learn my favorite recipe store-bought felt safer. She cried in my kitchen because she thought the mugs looked like hers did when she was small. Teresa laughed the cry off the counter and said, "Eat the cake, dramatic lady." We did. It tasted like the middle part, that isn't frosting, but you don't mind, because the whole thing gets you to the end. I don't have a lesson except this one. Some secrets are rooms. You can live in them, you can decorate, you can pretend the window is a painting. Or you can open the door and realize the hallway has 5 more doors, and that the house was bigger than you thought. You don't get to burn it down just because the blueprint hurts. You live in it anyway. You invite people in and you hope they wipe their feet. If you're a person who made a choice you can't say out loud yet, I am not on your side and I am not against you. I am watching you try to build a life out of pieces, and I know the sound the pieces make. If you're a person who might be missing somebody they haven't met yet, I can't promise a dinner and pancakes. I can't promise it won't hurt. I can only say there is more room than you think. TLDR, I 28F found a box in my late mum's closet with a diary and a tape. She confessed she swapped ankle bands at the hospital in 1997 and brought me home after a teen mom overdosed. My dad knew for 27 years and chose to be my father anyway. I found the birth mom Maya through old letters Shed sent and we met at a diner with her sister. No dramatic legal fireworks, just 3 people trying to tell the truth without wrecking wits left. I'm angry and grateful and still here.